Good day, Grade 8. We are back with another lesson video that will discuss the measures of position for ungrouped data. After this lesson, you are expected to illustrate the following measures of position such as quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. Calculate specified measures of position for ungrouped data of a set of data. Interpret measures of position for ungrouped data, and solve problems involving measures of position for ungrouped data. So in this lesson, we will discuss another important measure of statistics, which is the measures of position. Measures of position give us a way to see where a certain data point of value falls in a sample or distribution. A measure can tell us whether a value is about the average or whether it's unusually high or low. So for this lesson, we will discuss the measures of position by quartiles, deciles, and percentiles, or collectively known as quantiles. These are cut points dividing the range of a probability distribution into continuous intervals with equal probabilities, or dividing the observations in a sample in the same way. Let's start with the first type of quantile, which is quartiles. So these quartiles divide the distribution into 4 equal parts, and each part is 25% of the whole distribution. Okay, so this means that the lowest 25% of an arranged distribution falls under the first quartile, or Q sub 1. The first quartile also separates the distribution such that the lowest 25% lies below it while the upper 75% lies above it. Meanwhile, second quartile, or Q sub 2, separates the distribution such that the lowest 50% lies below it while the upper 50% lies above it. The lowest 50% also corresponds to the first one-half of the distribution, or the value below where 50% of the observations fall, making the second quartile the median of the distribution. Further, third quartile separates the distribution such that the lowest 75% lies below it while the upper 25% lies above it. The second type of quantile is deciles. Deciles divide the distribution into 10 equal parts, and each part is 10% of the whole distribution. Since the distribution is divided into 10 equal parts, the first decile, as illustrated on the figure, means that the lowest 10% of an arranged distribution falls under the first decile. Thus, the lowest 10% lies below it while the upper 90% lies above it. So this concept applies to all the positions under decile. Meanwhile, D sub 5, or the fifth percentile, decile rather, divides the distribution into 2 equal parts. Since D sub 5 is in the middle position just like the median, the value of the median and D sub 5 of a certain distribution is always the same. The last type of quantile is the percentile. Percentiles divide the distribution into 100 equal parts, and each part is 1% of the whole distribution. So this means that the lowest 1% of an arranged distribution falls under the first percentile. The first percentile, or P sub 1, also separates the distribution such that the lowest 1% lies below it while the upper 99% lies above it. It also applies, or this concept also applies to all the positions under percentile. Further, P sub 50, or the 50th percentile, divides the distribution into 2 equal parts. And since P sub 50 is in the middle position, just like the median, the value of the median and P sub 50 of a certain distribution is always the same. So if we will compare the value of the quantiles, we can refer to this figure. We can conclude that Q sub 2, D sub 5, and P sub 50 is always equal to the value of our median. So sa isang set of data, kapag kinuha natin ang values ng Q sub 2, D sub 5, and P sub 50, we will always come up with the very same answer. So kung mapapansin din natin, Q sub 1, or 1/4 of the distribution, is equivalent to P sub 25. And Q sub 3, which is 3/4 of the distribution, is equivalent to P sub 75. And also, when we compare the values of the deciles and percentiles of a certain distribution, D sub 1 corresponds to P sub 10, D sub 2 to P sub 20, D sub 3 to P sub 30, and so on, hanggang P sub 9 corresponds to P sub 90. So now that we have discussed the concepts of quantiles, let us now proceed with its computations and how it works in ungrouped data. Okay, so for quartiles, for ungrouped data, we use this specific formula. Q sub k equals kn over 4 plus quantity 1 minus k over 4 nth score of the distribution, wherein Q sub k is the indicated quartile, k is the values such as 1, 2, 3 kapag quartile ang hinahanap natin, and n is the total number of observations. Okay, so let us use this formula sa ating given example below. We are asked to find Q sub 1 of this specific set of data. However, kung mapapansin nyo yung data natin, wala siyang specific order. So always remember na ang unang step when we are asked to find the measures of position is to rearrange the data in ascending order. So ibig sabihin from least to greatest siya. Okay? So this will become 6, 8, 10, 12, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 20. Okay? So let us use our formula. Q sub k equals kn over 4 plus 1 minus k over 4 and score of the distribution. So let us substitute the values. Our k, since siya ay q sub 1, so that is 1. And then our value for n is 9, since ang number of observations natin or yung score sa ating distribution is 9. That's why n is 9. Okay? So 1 times 9, that is 9 all over 4 plus 1 minus 1/4, that is 3/4. And then when we add our similar fractions, 9 over 4 plus 3 over 4, we will come up with 12 over 4 square. Hence, Q sub 1 is the third score in our distribution. Okay? So, makukuha nating value for our formula, yun ay yung nth score pa siya ng distribution. So, hahanapin pa natin alin ba yung patatlong score sa distribution. So, sa ating set of data, the third score is 10. So, for our interpretation, the value of the first quartile is the third score of the distribution, which is 10. So, therefore, 25% of the scores in the distribution are less than 10. Another example for quartiles for ungrouped data. So, let us find Q sub 3 of the same set of data na ginamit natin kanina. Okay? So, ito ay arranged na in ascending order. Okay. So, let us use the same formula. We have Q sub k equals kn all over 4 plus the quantity of 1 minus k over 4 and square of the distribution. However, kung kanina, ginamit nating value ng k is 1 since Q sub 1 ang hinahanap natin. Ngayon, we are looking for Q sub 3, therefore, k is 3. But the value of n remains the same since we use the same set of data. Yung number of observations natin or yung total number of scores sa data set is the value of n, which is 9. Okay, so let us simplify. 3 times 9, that is 27. And then 1 minus 3/4, that is 1/4. So, kapag pinag-add natin si 27 plus 1, since they are similar fractions, we will come up with 28 over 4 and score. Therefore, Q sub 3 is the 7th score of the distribution. So, hanapin natin yung pampitong score sa distribution. Okay? So, that is 15. Okay? So, ito yung kahalagahan na inarrange natin agad yung score sa ating distribution. Kasi kapag hindi natin siya na-arrange, hindi natin pwedeng hanapin yung 7th score kasi wala siyang specific na order. Okay? So, the value of the third quartile is the 7th score, which is 15. Therefore, 75% of the scores in the distribution are less than 15. Now, let us have deciles for ungrouped data. Okay, so for deciles, ito ang ginagamit natin na formula. D sub k equals the quantity of kn all over 10 plus the quantity of 1 minus k over 10 and score of the distribution, wherein D sub k is the indicated decile. Kung kanina, we are looking for quartile, ang ginamit nating value or representation is Q since quartile siya, dito naman since decimal siya, D ang gagamitin natin and lagi yung uppercase. Okay? And then the value for K are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 since sabi natin decile divides the distribution into 10 equal parts. That's why ang value ng K for decile ay 1 to 9. And then the value for N is the total number of observations. Now, let us use this formula sa ating example below. We are asked to find D sub 5 of this set of data. However, kung mapapansin nyo, we are using the same set of data, but hindi natin siya na-arrange sa ascending order. So, atin muna siyang i-rearrange. Okay, so we have 6, 8, 10, 12, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 20. Now, let us use the formula for us to get D sub 5. D sub k equals kn all over 10 plus the quantity 1 minus k over 10 and score of the distribution. Let us substitute for the value of k. So, since D sub 5 siya, k is 5 and then we are using the same set of data at kapag binilang natin yung ating scores, yan ay 9. Okay, so n is 9. 5 times 9, that's 45 and then 1 minus 5 over 10, that is 5 over 10. Next, so kapag pinag-add natin yan, 45 over 10 plus 5 over 10, that is 50 over 10, and score of the distribution. Therefore, D sub 6 is the fifth score of the distribution. So, bibilang ulit tayo ng panglimang score sa ating dataset, which will give us 12. Okay? So, the value of the fifth decile is the fifth score in the distribution, which is 12. Therefore, 50% of the scores in the distribution are less than 12. Okay. So, kagaya din na nabanggit ko kanina, since D sub 5 corresponds to Q sub 2, ibig sabihin, it also corresponds to the median. Okay. So, the median of the distribution, this distribution is 12. Let us have another example for decile. Okay, so let us find D sub 6. Okay, so let us use the same set of data. So, ang ipa-flash ko sa inyong screen ay naka-arrange na into ascending order. Okay, so always remember na bago tayo mag-solve, we have to arrange or rearrange the scores into ascending order or from least to greatest. Okay, so let us use the same formula. Substituting the values for k and n. K is 6 since we are looking for D sub 6 and n is 9 since pare-parehas pa rin naman yung number of observations na ginamit natin. Okay? So, 6 times 9 all over 10 plus the quantity of 1 minus 6 over 10 and score. 54 over 10 plus 4 over 10 and score of the distribution. So, this will become 58 all over 10. So, simply, D sub 6 is 5.8 score of the distribution. Okay. So, parang may kakaiba dito sa sagot na nakuha natin. Bakit? Because compared sa ating previous answers na nakuha, ito ay merong decimal na kasama. So, paano natin hahanapin ngayon yung 5.8 score sa ating distribution? So, kapag mga ganitong pagkakataon ang ating sagot, always remember that if the positional value of a quantile is a decimal number, kagaya ng ating sagot ngayon, the value of the indicated quantile lies within the sum of the 8th entry. So, yung 8th entry, okay, so yung 5.8 ay i-imagine nyo as A point B. Okay? So, yung 8th entry natin, so for this case, that is 5th entry, and the B percent or the 80% of the difference between the 8th entry and the entry next to it. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, kailangan daw nating hanapin yung D sub 6 or yung value ng D sub 6 between sa scores ng 5th score and 6th score. Okay? Kasi, nakakuha na tayo ng value ng D sub 6 na 5.8. So, ibig sabihin, between 5 and 6 scores or 5th and 6th scores ang ating i-compute. So, sa ating distribution, ito yung 12 and 14. Okay? So, sa madaling salita, ganito ang formula na gagamitin natin. Using the 5th score, okay? So, 5th score is 12 plus yung 80%, saan nanggaling yung 80%? Dun sa decimal ng ating nakuhang D sub 6. So, siya ay 0.8, ibig sabihin, 0.8 or yung 80% noon ay imumultiply natin sa scores or sa difference ng 6th score and ng 5th score. The 6th score is 14, the 5th score is 12. Okay? So 14 minus 12, that is 2, multiplied by 0.80, so that is 1.60, plus our 5th score, which is 12. So, ibig sabihin, our value for D sub 6 is 13.6. Kasi sabi ko nga sa inyo, D sub 6 ay makikita sa values between ng 5th and 6th score. Okay? So, therefore, 60% of the scores in the distribution are less than 13.6. Okay, let us have the last example for quantile, which is the percentiles. So, percentiles for ungrouped data, we will use this specific formula. P sub k equals the quantity kn all over 100 plus the quantity of 1 minus k over 100 and score of the distribution. Wherein, P sub k is the indicated percentile. So, itong P na ginagamit natin ay dahil percentile yung ating hinahanap. At sabi ko nga, kanina, lagi yung uppercase. Okay? And then K pertains to 1, 2, 3, to 99. Okay, so sabi nga natin, percentile divides the distribution into 100 equal parts. Therefore, ang value ng K natin will be from 1 hanggang 99. And then N is the total number of observations. Okay, so let us use this formula in solving the example below. Find P sub 65. Since we are asked to find P sub 65, at kung papansin nyo, we are using the same set of data katulad ng kanina. So, P sub 65 ay isosolve natin after nating ma-rearrange ang ating score. So, this will become 6, 8, 10, 12, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 20 pa rin. And using our formula, let us substitute. K is 65, N is 9. Okay? So, P sub 65 equals 65 times 9, that is 585 all over 100, plus the quantity of 1 minus 65 over 100 is 35 over 100. And then, to find P sub 65, let us add 585 and 35. So, this will become 620 all over 100 and score. So, therefore, P sub 65 is a 6.2nd score of the distribution. Okay? So, kagaya nga ng sabi ko kanina, ang pagkakaroon ng sagot na merong decimal ay pwedeng mangyari sa quartile, decile, or percentile. So, kagaya nito, 6.2nd score siya. So, kagaya nung example kanina, hahanapin natin siya between naman sa 6th and 7th score since ang ating P sub 65 ay nagsimula sa 6. Okay? And then for the solution, okay, so hanapin natin agad yung 6th score. The 6th score is 14. So, meron agad tayong 14 dyan. And then yung 0.2 ay manggagaling doon sa ating P sub 65 na sagot. And imumultiply natin siya sa difference ng ating 7th score and 6th score, which is 15 and 14 respectively. Okay, so we have 15 minus 14, that's 1, multiplied by 0.2. Okay, so we have 0.2 plus our 6th score, which is 14. So, therefore, 14 plus 0.2, we have 14.2. Therefore, 65% of the scores in the distribution are less than 14.2. Okay, so for the last example, under percentile, we are asked to find P sub 99. So, we will use the same formula. Okay, P sub K equals Kn all over 100 plus the quantity of 1 minus K over 100 and score. Okay, and we will use the same set of data and naka-flash sa inyong screen ay arranged na sa least to greatest order or ascending order. Okay? So, let us substitute the values for K and N. The value for K is 99 and N is still 9. Okay? So, let us multiply 99 and 9. We will have 891 and then all over 100 plus 1 minus 99 over 100 is 1 over 100. And let us add 891 and 1. So, this will become 892 all over 100 and score of the distribution. So, P sub 99 is 8.92nd score of the distribution. So, hahanapin natin ngayon yung 8.92nd score sa ating distribution. So, since meron na tayong 8, we all know na hahanapin natin yung 0.92nd score between our 8 and 9th score, which is 16 and 20. So, for us to solve sa ating value ng P sub 99, we have this formula or solution. So, the 8th score is 16, and then 0.92 multiplied by 20 minus 16. So, 16 plus 3.68, we have 19.68. So, therefore, 99% of the scores in the distribution are less than 19.68. This ends our lesson for this week. I hope that this video helped you to further understand our lesson and answered some of your questions. However, if you still have some clarifications, you can always address those during our synchronous meeting. So I hope that through this video, you were able to think, wonder, and explore mathematics through measures of position for ungrouped data. Thank you very much.